going to be teaching babies anyway, but still, for my own sake, I knew I wanted it. So I missed that year, unfortunately. We go home, we got him engaged. I met Cathal.
How did you meet Cal? I'm gonna slow you down just a little bit. We'll get
Oh,
all
good.
this
I just hope I'm not. I feel like
Yes,
it's
you're fine.
all right.
You're
See,
wonderful.
you're telling me this.
Yes,
I
you're
know.
wonderful. Yeah.
Now, I was in America in October. December, I came to New York.
That was 67 now.
This was in 65.
65. Okay. Okay. You came to New York. Yeah.
And came to New York. That was it. It was to be more precise here. Then I went to a dance at City Centre in Manhattan. And Cathal was there. And he asked me to dance. And I, having just come from Italy, was full of myself with my Italian. And I'm talking to him, and he says, I drive a Lamborghini. I said, oh, you do? And yeah, I have to show it to you. So I had friends, so naturally we go out to see the Lamborghini. The little tiny little red Ford, a little red car. That was a little English red car. And I said, Lamborghini. However, by then, he had almost asked me to marry him the first time I met him. So that was it. So now we dated. And from then on, that summer I didn't want to go to Ireland because I had Cathal, of course, and we were, seeing each other. I was living in Delaware and he was up here. And so from then we got engaged the following November and went back to Ireland the following summer. So I was just 2 years in America when we went back to get married. So we went back to Ireland to get married.
To be married.
Yes. And we got married in Dublin. So my dad was able to walk. Yeah. And because of that, we got married in the same church in Dublin that my mum and dad got married. In Rathgar, yes. So that was very important to me at that stage. And then Cathal being from Dublin, that was very nice as well. So then that was it, you see. Then I didn't see my dad after that when we went on, came back to America. And I came back to America then, having left Delaware. I had resigned, I'd finished there because we got married. And in Delaware, they were so nice to me. It was fantastic. It was a beautiful 2 years I was there. And then I thought I would be a lady of leisure, marrying Cathal, right? He says, He says, if you're going to, I said, I'm not working. No women worked in Ireland when you got married. He says, okay, go down to draw the dole. So in Yonkers, we're living in Yonkers. So I go, you don't go down in Yonkers and draw the you don't line up with 400 more in Getty Square. And then I copped on and I said, well, let me look for a job. So I did. I got a job in New Rochelle teaching Montessori. Spent 2 years there. And then Cathal kept saying, why don't you open your own school? If you did it in Wilmington, Delaware for them, you can do it for yourself. So he was a sports car fanatic, of course. And we'd drive out the country every Sunday and we'd set up, there was a club, the Westchester Sports Car Club, and we would have gymkhanas and everything. So he fell in love with Bedford, a place called Suckerbone Corners in Bedford. He says, if ever we're going to live in Suckerbone Corners, of course we couldn't afford anything like it. That's only where horses live. They know. They pick their places. They have beautiful places. So unfortunately, with the Suckerbone Corners, 684 went right through it later. So it wasn't the place to go. So we used to drive around Poundridge and we met a realtor and we said to him, we're looking for a place to open a Montessori school. He said, I'll find it for you. And within 3 months, he had found us. He rented us one of his houses. He was a realtor and he owned some houses in Poundridge. So we rented a place there. In 3 months, we had a school. We went to the town, got a permit, from the Poundridge, and we made it into the Poundridge history book because the history of Poundridge was being written that year, and our Montessori school is in it because
it's the first one.
It was the first one. So we started in '69 in Poundridge, and been there ever since. We moved from that building and have our own beautiful building now. Lovely little tiny. It's a one-room schoolhouse, small little school. So
You've kind of come full circle, huh?
full circle from the. That's right. Yep. Yes, and great pressure over the years to become bigger and better, and I said no. And now, of course, it was the right thing to do. Stay small, and you get the likes of Richard Gere and Stanley Tucci.
Do you have that picture too?
Oh, that's right. Now, where is my little bag here? I think that's in my little book. Where is my book at this stage? Can we shut off that? Where did I put the book? No, I don't know.
I did get a shot of it.
Yep.
You, Judy,
And
that's
so
good.
how
You
long
can
ago was
edit
that
all
now?
of this.
His children are not
Uh,
babies anymore, are they?
No, he had a little boy, Homer, and that's Richard with, that's the school with my staff, and his wife, and then their nanny, my teachers, and ourselves. And Damien, my son, is in there somewhere. My handsome Damien, yeah. And Damien is now teaching. He's in the New Canaan Public Schools, teaching there.
Come through the family.
They do.
And
They do.
what would have been the year that Richard Gere's son was there with you?
3 years ago. Let's go back. Yeah.
A few years back.
Just a few years back. Yes. Yes. So we still sort of see we'll see the family.
Yeah.
We were, yeah.
So you've had some celebrities in your life.
Yes,
starting with
indeed.
Your father being a TD.
Yeah, and then
And then
just
you
as
did.
we went along. Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
gave you that lovely gift, I think, that Kevin also
That's
filmed.
right.
Was
That's
it a necklace
right.
or a bracelet?
That's right. A lovely bracelet I had. Oh,
Was that a Christmas gift or something?
that was a Christmas gift. Yeah, from Gina.
And did she had more than one child?
No, Gina had one son, Milko, who was going to school at that time. He was at school. I just was there as a. In fact, the reason that Gina afterwards we be talking, she said she needed to have English-speaking nannies because she was trying to speak English at that point, and she was about to come to America to do the movie with Rock Hudson, Strange Bedfellows. And she wanted, and I thought the reason I took the job was that I knew you'd hear about this, and I thought I'd get to America through her,
Oh, I see.
and that she'd be taking Milko with her.
Uh-huh.
Well, of course, no. It was going too well. His schooling was doing too well at that point, and she didn't want to take him out of school. So I didn't get a chance to come. But however, we do have a very nice picture of Gina and Milko here.
Yes.
Roberto, the chauffeur, and I went in our Rolls Royce to pick Gina up on her way back from America after doing the movie with Rock Hudson. And what happens, with the movie stars is they take the little boy and they give them a big, huge bunch of flowers. And the little boy runs to his mother as she's getting off the plane. So he does, and I think she's holding the flowers there. And I'm there with my little instant camera in the distance now, and I'm taking a picture, and she suddenly sees me. She says, "Oh, Teresa, how good to see you." And there she is. So that was it. And then here was the funny gimmicks of Milko when he was going to school, and he was mailing a letter to his mom in America. You see, that's cute. That's in Milko's room there, and it's Gina at the table. We're having dinner at the table, which was very nice.
And how long were you with her?
A year.
A year.
A year, yes. And I didn't leave on the best of terms. The husband was very difficult. He was very difficult. He was a very self-important man. And I had told him that I had a very good Irish friend that they knew, my friend Edna, and we had arranged to take a vacation and go to Ireland for a few weeks. And we were driving. And so you have to book ahead and you have to make sure you have the boats, because we drove all through Italy, France, then got off in Le Havre onto England, went through England, got onto Ireland. And all those bookings had to be done way ahead of time. And he said, "No, you can't go." I said, "Oops." "Oops, I'm going."
Yes, I won't be coming back.
That's it. But I'll stay as long as you want me until you find somebody else. And then that was it. So, and I knew I wasn't going to live in Italy, that I wasn't going to marry an Italian. I knew that. By then I knew. Because
And you enjoyed your stay?
I loved Italy, yes. We've been back there, took the children back there when they were young, and went back there recently again. Oh, it's marvellous. And the file of my Italian language came opening up after the first week in Italy, when we went back 2 years ago, fluent. It just came back. Just came back. Yes, it was extraordinary, because I had not experienced that.
Yeah.
And it just opened up, and it took me a week, though. I was almost fumbling and stuttering and stumbling for a week, then it all came back.
Was it hard for you to, now the first place you went, of course, was to boarding school, and then you went to London.
Yes.
Was it hard to leave your family, your
Always.
father, your dad?
Always.
Was it
Always.
homesickness? Or
Always.
Yeah.
Always. A very good point. Always. And I'd be crying and crying leaving. And my sister Una would always say to me, you know you love coming home, so you got to put up with going away. Made sense. But I'd be very homesick, very, very homesick. Yeah.
But still going off to London, you knew this was something you wanted to
It
do.
was
You
something I
wanted
was going to
travel.
do. I was going to, yes. And being, particularly, I don't know whether it was a very Irish thing, was failure wasn't accepted. You weren't going to come back a failure.
Yes.
That was very important to be successful, which kept you going, I think, to this day. We have it. That's why I won't retire, and I should. I mean, look, you know my age. Not too many people know my age, and this is going into archives, I know. So, but I just don't. I feel if I didn't have to go to work, it would be terrible. I think I
You really enjoy what you're doing.
love it. Yes, I do. I do.
So now, tell me when you flew over. I take it when you came to the States.
I did. Yes.
What was your first impression when you got here?
It was like out of this world. Similar now, when I went to England, just the contrasting thing was
Yes.
England was dull. I knew that as a young person. No friendly, no. Go to Italy. It was culture shock. So beautiful. The lifestyle was so incredible. Evenings, people, family, children, everybody was beautiful. You'd go down in the morning looking like a wreck and you'd see an old man cleaning the streets. He'd say, okay, bella signorina. And, everybody was so nice. Food was exquisite. Like, it was like a dream. Come to America. Now, that didn't cost money. That was the thing. I had still no money. Come to America. Now I have money. Now I can think for myself. Now I can get checks made. I didn't know about these bits of paper with the flowers on them. And like I have a bank account. I didn't have a clue what that was all about. To own a car before it was unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it was just, then the parents, the families in Delaware that we met were so nice to us because we came in October. Well, it was like pumpkins, leaves. I never saw a fall like that. We'd be driving around from one house to another. We'd hardly people hanging out of cars, and the rules were very, they weren't strict at all. It was such a beautiful place to be. Loved it. Yeah.
And how about your first winter here?
First winter, I had the car. The old Mustang didn't do too good in the winter. We used to get clogged, and we had a bit of trouble with it. Didn't mind the snow at all. I'd drive on. Yeah.
You did.
No.
So
Yeah. Well, Delaware, mind you, doesn't get nearly as much as here.
True.
So we only had maybe not as much. No, we were able to survive it.
And
yeah.
you were already used to the heat from Italy.
Yes.
So that wasn't too big of a shock.
No, not at all. And then, of course, once we had our children, Grania and Damien, parents at the school, an Irish girl, I was teaching her daughter, Deirdre, and her husband owned WVIP in Mount Kisco. It was a radio station. And she would meet me every morning and say, Teresa, you've got to take the children skiing. You got to take them skiing. I said, are you kidding? I mean, there's no way. So eventually I broke down and took them skiing. And I realized skiing is for all day. You don't go for like an hour. So it meant that you had to. So I took one lesson, never wanted to get off the mountain.
So now you're
fell passionate about it again. And then went gung-ho for forever. To the point that that's why Damien's up in Vermont. He went to college in UVM. And Grania then, of course, ended up going to Cornell, my daughter. She graduated from Cornell. And then Damien got his master's from, where did he do his master's? Who knows? Columbia, yeah. So they did great. But they're still skiers. They're crazy skiers. They're snowboarders now, of course, too. But that was skiing, so I loved it. Don't ski anymore myself.
You don't?
No, I think it's kind of silly if you're going to break your leg at my age. There's nothing nice about that, only the suffering I go through. So I said, no more of that.
Now, you and Cahill got married, and when did you get married? Tell us the date that you were married.
July 11th in 67.
In 67.
Yes.
Okay, and then you came back and you started to...
I taught for a few years here before we had children. And then we were 3 years married when we opened the school. And the month that we got the permit from the town that we could have a little school, Granny was born 9 months later.
So you celebrated?
So we celebrated, definitely, and Granny was born. And then I didn't want anyone to know I was pregnant because I thought that they would never send their children to school because here's this young teacher, and now she's a child and she's not going to look after. So we had the baby without anybody knowing it almost. It was Christmas. So I was able to sneak, and suddenly we had a baby, and then everybody knew it didn't matter. I still was able to, Cahill had his dental laboratory in the house at that point, so he'd mind the baby during the day, and I'd be able to go to teach, and he'd do his work at night, and we got,
worked out just
yep,
fine.
yep, yep.
And did your children, and then when was Damien born?
Gráinne was born in 70, December of 70, and Damien was 73, April of 73, yes. And that was it, our two babies.
Have they been educated in the Montessori school?
Funny you should ask. Both of them have taken the course. Yeah. Damien did it because we have the school and it's our building, and it would be a big mistake since both of them are teachers. So, but now Gráinne is really the one that's into it. She is awesome. She is now in the middle of, she's almost finished taking the course. And she has her degrees in everything, and she said she has never studied so hard in all her life. That this is one of the most intensive courses she has ever done. She said nothing, but loves it. I mean, absolutely loves it. From the psychology to the practical stuff, she said it's amazing.
Did they go to your school
as babies? They did. They did. Yes.
And how long do children go to Montessori?
Just basically 3 years. They'll start when they're 3, and they leave me to go into either kindergarten or first grade.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they get their start.
They get their start, and it's a very, very special. It works. It really, really works.
That's wonderful.
It is. Yeah. I mean, just growing up with them, they were great kids. There was no conflict within the family. You know, they were good attitude from day one, and I think the school helped and Montessori helped, and you know, they loved school. I mean, Gráinne is a student. Now, the funniest thing is that, you know, you don't have to have brains to succeed. I'm one of them. It's really stick-to-itiveness, you know, and Montessori teaches that very basically, and the materials are incredible. They're awesome stuff. Yes, speaking of materials, here we have. We give Montessori a moment. When you're teaching children in school, you can any little baby can count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, if you give them, this is Montessori material, if you give them 3 little 3s, they can see it's a 3 square. Now, if you give them a 3 square and a 3 square, and yet another 3 square, you will then have a 3 cube, which is very sweet. So this is done in all the numbers from 1 to the decimal system. So we have all this material. The parents one summer gave me this gift, which is the 3 cube, but this is coral and gold.
Oh, how lovely. Isn't that
genuine coral and gold necklace, and that's it. If you rip this apart, that's what it is. Isn't that gorgeous? That's one little tiny piece of. This is why my children think the Montessori method is incredible, because it's full of this.
Yes.
This is only one tiny.
How many students would you have in your classroom?
No more than 26, 28. That's it.
Yeah.
Altogether.
Yeah.
I don't take any more. Morning session only.
Yeah.
That's it. And
you know. You have the summers off.
Summers off. Yeah.
And now this past summer you told me you were in Ireland.
In Ireland. Went there for 5 weeks and went to the wedding, to John and Margaret's wedding.
Did you name your house? Does your house have a name?
Our house in Ireland. Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. It's called Mill Cottage, because there's a mill in the distance. Uh-huh. So we figured, Pat and Sarah called theirs Station Cottage because theirs is facing the station, right, or at least that end of it is at the station, and ours is at the Mill Cottage.
What a lovely way to do it. Yes.
Yeah, it just made sense.
And now, over their children's lifetimes, has Ireland been a big presence in their life?
Huge, especially with my sister Una, visiting her in Ireland. She has one of the most beautiful houses in existence in Ireland. Not a big, huge thing, just a beautiful house. And I'm so sorry I didn't bring a picture, but anyway, it's there. Called Rushmount House in Kilworth. Just gorgeous. And it's still a working farm, big farm. Yeah. And they spent they used to call it their summer camp. They went to summer camp. And we'd go over there for 6 or 8 weeks, almost every year. And she didn't have children. Una and Philip had no children. So they were always so welcoming to ours, you know. And we'd have a great time there. And then Cathal would join us for part of it as well. So that was their summers. And to the point that they will go back constantly, they do. And we figure they may, but it'll be interesting as their babies grow up. Now, their babies have all been back there too, so the grandchildren.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
And do they stay at your house when they go back?
They do. But then there's lots of places for them to stay,
well,
you know.
A lot of family there.
Yeah. And of course, then we do have our grandchildren, which cannot be forgotten at all.
What are your grandchildren's names?
There's Marguerite, Cormac, and Declan. Yes. Declan is Damien's, and they're about to have another baby. And that was all of us taken at in Norwalk, where Grania lives, on my birthday, on my last birthday, which we don't discuss. Yes, so that's that part of it. Now, any other questions here?
Yes,
Sure, it's
that's
time.
lovely. That's lovely. When you got here, was there now you came into the airport and the people that you were going to work for came to
Yes,
pick you up?
they did, and it got very. I believe there were delays, and I remember arriving at the airport at like 2 a.m. or something, and never being concerned. Just having been able to be however they kept in contact, and they were there for me, and they picked me up and took me back, set us up in an apartment with another friend of mine, an Irish girl, Cyril Brophy now, Cyril Guiney then. And we shared an apartment there for 2 years in Delaware Avenue in Wilmington. And they took Thanksgiving. I remember we didn't know anything about Thanksgiving. It didn't exist.
That must have been an interesting.
And I remember being invited to Thanksgiving to one family. And I think they were cousins of the DuPonts. So, of course, we couldn't say no. But our real friends that we really knew had invited us as well. So we had 2 Thanksgiving dinners on our first November in America, because it was too exciting. Thanksgiving is one of the most delightful feasts ever. It's one of the best inventions ever.
And you kind of adopted that into your
Love it.
everyday
Oh
life.
yes. Oh yeah. We love it. I think everybody does. Christmas is much more stressful, but
Yes,
it's just because you have to remembering everybody. It's not.
Yeah.
Whereas Thanksgiving, it's just Thanksgiving. It's
Just-
people.
yes,
Yeah.
it's
It's
just people
very,
in your life.
very nice.
Yeah,
Very
I,
nice.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So now you traveled here by yourself then, from Ireland.
I came on my own, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That didn't faze me, you see, at all. None. I remember my father saying, like, so long as you have the price to go back, have enough money that you can go back. Now, when I went to Italy, I didn't. I had no money. And I barely got, my dad must have given me the fare out, because I know I didn't get it from the family I went to. And every week I'd get my little bit of money in Italy. And I had a tiny bedroom with cement blocks with holes in them, they're like, and each time I get my paycheck, I'd put it in there. And I knew when I'd filled so many that I would have the fare back to Ireland. And the day I had the fare back to Ireland, I quit. And then got a nice job then. Because I knew better existed.
Yeah.
I wasn't good for the little child. The little child was lovely, but the family were completely a mess. And it wasn't my style at all, because I hadn't grown up in a family mess of any description, so I didn't know what was going on. They was not in a good situation. So that taught me to, because I didn't want to leave Italy in a bad feeling, saying this is Italy would be terrible.
Right.
Italy is a magnificent place, yeah.
When you got here, did you seek out places where you could find other Irish people to be a part of
It
your
didn't
life?
seem important to me. Not really. My friend was very much that way. She was like, Carl will seek out the Irish. I didn't think about it, in Delaware, we would have known a few Irish, and then because you'll know somebody with Irish background, they're trying to get you. It almost happens without you knowing it. When I came to America, people with Irish names would say, oh, we've this Irish teacher, let's go visit with, so-and-so, they're from Ireland, and they'd throw us together. And sure, we mightn't even like them, but they would get us together. And Delaware, there weren't very many Irish, in the sense of young Irish people did not go to Wilmington, Delaware. They all came to New York
So
or
there weren't
Chicago.
clubs or things
Not
like
a
that to
thing,
go to?
not at all.
Yeah.
But then Delaware wasn't far from here, from New York. So we spent almost every weekend in New York.
So was that more of an Irish community when you come to New York?
Yes,
You went to an
yeah,
Irish
because
community?
my friend Cyril that I share the apartment with, her aunt lived in New York, so we'd come up and stay with her.
Take the train?
Drive.
Drive? Oh, you little...
We had we had our Mustang.
Yeah.
Oh yes. No, we drive up and down, and we got to know that
95.
turnpike. That we did. We got to know the Jersey Turnpike. We got to know it very, very well. And then, of course, through the school, we got to know lots of very nice people. And one family would let us stay. We used to go down to St. Croix for the winters, like for the holidays, because they'd let us have their place down there. They were very nice. I mean, people were very, very good. Really very good. So, no, we've had really Like people would say to me, well, you know, will you ever go back to Ireland? I would never go back to live, meaning retire. Yeah, go there and back, but I'll never. Pound Ridge, I love it. Love it.
That was a question I was going to ask you. Now that you are kind of, or it could be retired if you wanted to be, you would not go back to live.
I wouldn't go back to live, but fortunately it's fantastic to have the little house. And when we bought it at times when it wasn't so expensive. However, we spent plenty of trying to restore it because then it was expensive money again at that time. But it's lovely to have a little place there. It's really, really right. I wouldn't. I would wonder would I be going back as much if we didn't have it. You know, we've had it about 8 years now, 10 years. So it's been terrific. But no, I wouldn't leave here. I wouldn't leave here at all. All our friends are here, you know.
What are the biggest changes you see in Ireland when you've gone back now?
The rich, the Celtic tiger has taken over, and everybody, they don't know what they're doing with money. It's fantastic. I love it for them. I do really. I see that lovely cars, lovely homes, flowers everywhere. In fact, that was the first change I noticed when Ireland started getting money and they started making a living, was people's houses became, their first priority were flowers. Because we went on our honeymoon into the north, the years when Ireland, the south was poor, very poor, really. And went into the north, was beautiful. I thought, God, this is so perfect, it's lovely. Now, 25, 30 years later, we go back to the north for a vacation. Dull, colourless, nothing. Tourists trying to find a place to stay, unbelievably different. The south is it's like the difference between England and Italy, you know, just a huge difference. The south is beautiful, colourful. The towns now are exquisite. The flowers,
Grey buildings. Beautiful.
And they've retained as best they just started to cop on. I mean, people will always complain and grumble that certain buildings were pulled down, but generally speaking, they've retained the towns now, and they're going to stay. They're not going to be ruined. To the point that my own home, where I was born, you know, grew up, they have to keep the facade. They couldn't touch it. Mm-hmm. So things, you know, they're remaining the same look, which is beautiful.
But more beautified.
Oh, beautiful. Now they have bathrooms and everything are exquisite. We don't compete with them even here, you know. I mean, it's just, that's what I love for them. I love it for them. Great little country that it's so tiny in there. But the reason is to see they're very smart. Irish people were terribly well educated. And I think it won out when the computer times came in. That's what the success is. Because they were very, very well educated. And
of course, it's brought things like drugs and...
That is the horror of it, of course, yeah. Of course. And it'll take them ages to correct. Like America discovered it too. Same thing happened in America.
Oh, absolutely.
And like they've got to handle it. Like when we will tell them in Ireland, we know nothing about drugs where we live in Pound Ridge. The biggest drug we have is a glass of wine with your dinner. Mm-hmm. Now, people may be on pharmaceutical drugs. I wouldn't have a clue. But even for myself, I take